Grow Great is a city government leadership podcast with Lisa Norris and me, Randy Cantrell. Each week we share insights, experiences, and wisdom to help you and your leadership grow great. Our website is growgreat.com.
Randy, we found a quote in here that I thought was perfect timing. When the mind is weak, the situation is a problem. When the mind is balanced, the situation is a challenge. When the mind is strong, the situation becomes an opportunity. And each of those words, while just slightly insinuating something different, matter. You and I have always talked about words matter. And you go from this problem, which is negative. Problem, we were talking about the glass half full and the glass half empty. You can't even find the glass. Where is the glass that I'm supposed to have? Right. So there's almost
glass.
It's just a negative insinuation. A challenge is the glass is half empty. How do I get it half full or beyond? And then opportunities, truly, the glass is always half full. Everything is seen as, what can we do with it now? What's the solution we're looking for? What's the ideal outcome? There is just a different perception of those words and their inherent meaning and their inherent approach on a mindset, which is what counts. As we, in HR, I can tell you every day in city manager's office, as a leader, this is what counts and how you approach a situation for resolution. And if you're always looking at everything as a problem, the solution takes much longer to get to because you're going to approach it as a problem with the team, and it's a negative mindset. To me, a problem is just a negative mindset. No, it's an opportunity for us to become better. How do we solve that? There's a huge swing in those two words, which I don't know if people realize or recognize, but there's a huge difference.
Well, it's kind of that age-old moniker. If you're a hammer, then every problem is a nail, and so I know people that have been great fixers. In fact, my career was largely playing the role of a fixer. And I think it can be very easy to see situations as a problem to be fixed. And we've done other shows about curiosity and how curiosity can be so limited because people can look at it. It's a problem. It's to be fixed. I got the solution. I know the solution. No conversation, no context, no diving deeper, none of that. And by the way, all three of these, I think, are not necessarily, they could be character traits, but all three of these can be just moments in time for people. Mm-hmm. I mean, there clearly have been times where my mind was weak and I saw a situation as a problem.
Of course.
There have been other times when my mind was way more balanced and I saw it as a challenge. Now, my default is probably kind of right there. That probably is, I'm at that place way more frequently than I'm at either one end or the other.
Right.
But in the last 20 years, I have gotten increasingly more toward that when my mind is strong, situations becoming, over the last 20 years, I'm more immediately now than I did when I was younger, probably because of age and experience. Mm-hmm. I now go to the opportunity probably because I've gone through so many problems and challenges.
Right.
And I now know how they worked out. I didn't in real time then, but I do now. I think the big goal is to try to figure out a way to make that shift. If you know yourself well enough to know that, man, I'm mostly, every time a situation comes up, I'm thinking, oh man, what a problem, what a problem. Don't beat yourself up about that, but get busy doing something about that. Get busy shifting your mind to at least, and I don't think we got to jump from problem to opportunity. I don't think we have to jump from being a pessimist to an optimist, for instance.
Right.
Probably too much of a jump. Just take this baby step toward, okay, it's a challenge. It's something to either overcome or endure.
Yeah.
So first, can I overcome it? Can I fix it? And if I can fix it, how can I fix it? And maybe you can't. Not every problem can be fixed. Some problems we just have to grind it out. And we have to endure it. You guys are going through this workday thing. Okay, people could look at that as a problem or it certainly is a challenge, but they could look at it as a problem. Well, there's this stuff that you have to go through to get to the go live date and then beyond, and you just have to grind it out. I mean, these people, you've got a team of 60 or so people that are having to do their work plus additional work, and you just got to get through that. You just have to climb that mountain. The mountain ain't getting smaller. We just have to climb it. We just have to do it. So I think there's that as well.
It's so interesting because to me, what I see in the words and what I picture in my head is when you look at a problem, the focus is on the issue. The focus is on the task, the issue at hand. What is it? Right? So although your mind can go to a negative concept, to me, when you talk about a problem, it is the specific issue at hand. When you move to challenge and opportunity, you're moving from the actual issue to the outcome. What is the outcome we need to achieve? So your mindset, in my mind, shifts from I'm not just going to worry about the problem itself. I'm going to worry about where we need to be to solve for it. And what does that look like? And how does that path get there? There is a definite shift in my mind that's very clear when you look at a problem, a thing, to an opportunity, which is an outcome. How are we going to solve for that? And how are we going to get there? The challenge is in the middle. That's where do we go from here? Now that I know the problem, how do I get to the opportunity to solve for it? So you're right. I think if we can land in that middle, what is the challenge in front of us? You're considering both the outcome and the issue.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So challenge is where we need to be to start the discussion and start gaining, from our leadership recipe, we need to start gaining the knowledge and the understanding to get to the ideal outcome for our people, for our cities, for our departments that we're serving. And again, that very concept is what happens regardless of your role. We have listeners in utility services. We have listeners in parks and public works. It matters not your role in your department and whom you're serving, even if you're private sector and you're a consultant, that we have listeners. The issue is focus on the challenge to get to the opportunity, because you're taking everything in front of you and developing a solution, and you're going to get there much faster with an opportunistic approach than you ever will with a negative focus on the task at hand approach. It just doesn't work well.
Yeah, and in the context of leadership, this all begins with you. So you, whomever you are, whatever your title, you are taking on the role of leadership. That's the whole point of this podcast, this show. And however you approach these things, if your mind is weak and the situation, any and every situation is a problem, that's going to trickle down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to bleed to your team. It's going to cover your team, and that will be their approach.
Yeah.
If they're in it long enough, you're right.
Correct. And that's why this is important. But secondly, it's also important because it is a leadership issue, and it's what your team can go through and come out the other end better and learning. How many times have you led a team through some problem, some challenge that did, in retrospect especially, now it was an opportunity, and man, did they grow, man, did they learn, man, did they come together. I mean, you just take our show and the stories that Lisa and I share with you guys are often stories of success, but often they're stories of
opportunity,
big challenges and problems that in retrospect we look back and we're like, man, but what a gift that was, that problem, that challenge, that now in real time, maybe we couldn't see it for what it was, but not only our growth as a leader, but our team's growth together.
Well, and the practical application of it is what counts. And to give an example for listeners going, well, what does that look like? That's often when I learned from you, Randy, when I've learned from others that I had mentors. You have to understand what that looks like and feels like in a moment. And I want to give an example. So we've often talked about, knowledge and understanding where managers will just do. They see the challenge, they see the problem, they just fix it. A leader, when we call it trickling down to your team, needs to be able to share with your team and give them the same experience of that shift in mindset. And so, as an example, what we had one time in HR, I was kind of teaching, I was trying to groom and grow people in knowledge of different things. And I'd always tell them, come to me when you want to know something and let's talk about it. Well, to speak to this thing, we had an issue in our insurance fund. And every city has an insurance fund, whether they fund claims or not. But there was a big issue in the insurance fund. And I had 3 of my team members rush into my office. If you've ever had this, Randy, they're knocking on the edge of the door, like, we got to see you right now. Right. And I'm like, come on in. And so they're like, Houston, we have a problem. How many times have we heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Houston, we have a problem. I'm like, okay, tell me. And they show me, and they're like, we're projecting this fund to be negative by $2 or $3 million at year end based on the current claims. And so I said, okay, what have you done so far? Right. So now I'm gaining, what's the challenge in front of us? Not the issue you've identified. The problem is the fund is going to be in a deficit. But fast forward with this, I ask a lot of questions, which I do. I'm very curious to say, one, to help me understand where they're at and what they've looked at. So, because it can be teaching moments. And this is all happening in minutes. This is not 5 hour. I don't want people to think this is a 4-day conversation, right? This is all happening in the moment. I gathered the information. What have you done so far? Show it to me. Show me what you're looking at. Show me where we've gotten it from. We go through all this, and I said, okay, hold on a second. Go back to your spreadsheet, and I want you to look at everything, because I immediately saw something on the spreadsheet that was off, and it was very clear just at a glance. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, just go look at the spreadsheet, look at your projection column, look at your actual column. And so they're like, oh, and I said, this is a challenge. And they're like, oh, okay. And so they go back and they go, oh, we found this one thing. I said, think bigger. That's all I responded with in the email. Think bigger. And they're like, challenge accepted. Right. So this is now a game that gives them they've created energy through this. Long story short, they had a formula wrong. And when they changed the formula, I could tell by the average of the 4 months, their formula in the projection column was off. They didn't calculate the number of months remaining. They had too many months. They should have only had 8. They had 9 or 10. They didn't change the last formula to calculate how many months were remaining. So this huge problem became an opportunity to, 1, teach, 2, grow them, and 3, let them solve for it themselves. I could have just told them, guys, your formula's off in the projection column. But them experiencing it and seeing it as an opportunity to grow and to solve for it themselves, that's a very simple example. Things can be much more complex, and I get that. But I took that opportunity to teach and grow, and they saw the opportunity to learn too, in this case. And that counts, and it stuck with them forever. They're like, okay, we're going to check that column from now on. I said, that'd be good. Let's do that. But it wasn't a ding. It wasn't a, guys, you need to be more careful. It was it's a very complex fund and spreadsheet. And there's a lot to it. It's, can't explain in this call, but that's just a simple example of how you look at an opportunity versus, well, the problem is the funds, crap, the fund, we're in a hole. We need to go tell CMO. We're going to have to get more money. We're going to have to cancel benefits. I mean, in their mind, they were in that there is no glass. We can't find the glass.
Right.
And you quickly,
but
through
your response,
leadership, can shift it.
Your response drove it, though, because you looked at it based on this quote that we're using, which is kind of the point.
And this is manager down to the benefits partner and the senior benefits partner. So all 3 were in the room. And did I ever have them again come to me without checking and validating and things first. Never again. They're like, okay, here's what we've already checked the spreadsheet. So, and they just went, but they took that and ran with it. And that's what counts.
Yeah. And you could have coached them for months and months and had it not stick like something as pivotal as that did.
Yeah. Took 10 minutes
Yeah.
and they figured it out. So when we talk about that, I just want to, for our listeners, just think about it. Think about, are you going to focus on the task at hand, the thing that's the problem, and keep it a problem? Or are you going to shift the mindset of your team to see it? Well, it's a challenge in front of it, but where do we want to be and how are we going to get there? If you can focus on the opportunity and help your team see the shift, they will start bringing solutions to the table. They may not be the correct ones and they may not be the ones you ultimately go with, but you're growing their mind and you're growing their mindset into strategy versus operational. And I think that's our job as leaders, period, regarding this entire concept.
Thanks for watching and listening to Grow Great, the City Government Leadership Podcast. Our website is growgreat.com. For Lisa Norris, I'm Randy Cantrell. We hope you'll subscribe to the show, and we hope you'll tell a friend.